He was just a poor old man, struggling to make ends meet. The rich man. He had everything: money, power, luxury. But when his expensive car broke down in the middle of the road, only one person stopped to help him. The next day, the poor man heard a knock on his door, and what he saw left him completely speechless. Stay tuned for an incredible story of kindness, karma, and an unexpected twist. James had spent his entire life working hard. He had once been a skilled mechanic, but after his small repair shop shut down due to financial struggles, he had to let go of everything he built. Now in his 70s, with no family to support him, James spent his days doing small repairs for people in town just to afford food and rent. Every morning he would walk the long road into town, hoping to find odd jobs that would help him survive another day. Despite his struggles, he never lost his kindness. Whenever he saw someone in need, he always lent a hand, even if he had nothing to give. One afternoon, while heading home, James noticed a sleek black luxury car stopped on the side of the road. Smoke was rising from under the hood, and a well-dressed man stood next to it, aggressively tapping at his phone and cursing under his breath. James hesitated for a moment. The man clearly came from wealth. His tailored suit, expensive shoes, and golden watch made that obvious. People like him rarely acknowledged people like James. But James wasn't the kind of person to ignore someone in trouble. He took a deep breath and walked forward. "Need some help, son?" The rich man, Nathan, turned and scoffed. "No offense, old man, but I don't think you can fix this." James just smiled patiently. "I've been fixing cars longer than you've been alive. Let me take a look." Nathan rolled his eyes, but he was out of options. His phone had no signal, and no roadside assistance was in sight. Reluctantly, he stepped aside. James opened the hood and examined the engine. He could immediately see the issue: a loose connection causing the engine to overheat. Years of experience guided his hands as he tightened bolts, adjusted wires, and checked the fluid levels. Nathan, growing impatient, sighed. "Look, if this doesn't work, I'll just call for a tow truck." "Try it now," James interrupted. Nathan got into the driver's seat, still skeptical. He turned the key, and to his shock, the engine roared back to life. Nathan stared at the dashboard, then at James. "You actually fixed it?" James chuckled. "Told you I knew what I was doing." Nathan reached into his wallet and pulled out a few bills. "How much do I owe you?" James shook his head. "Nothing, son. Just promise me one thing. Next time you see someone in need, don't be so quick to judge." Nathan hesitated. Something about the old man's words struck him. But instead of arguing, he simply nodded and drove off, never expecting to see James again. The next morning, James was sitting outside his small, run-down house, sipping on a cup of weak coffee. His hands ached from years of hard labor, but he had no choice but to keep working. Suddenly, he heard a knock on the door. James frowned. He rarely had visitors. When he opened the door, his jaw dropped. Standing there in a freshly pressed suit was Nathan. But this time, he didn't have an arrogant expression. Instead, he looked humble. "Sir," Nathan said, "I owe you more than just a thank you." James squinted. "What do you mean?" Nathan handed him an envelope. James slowly opened it, and his eyes widened in shock. Inside was a signed check for $100,000. "I own one of the biggest auto repair chains in the country," Nathan explained, "and I've been looking for someone who truly understands cars. If you're willing, I want you to help train my mechanics. This check is just the beginning." James felt his hands tremble. He had spent his whole life working hard, never asking for anything in return. And now, because of a simple act of kindness, his life was changing forever. At first, James hesitated. He had spent so long struggling that he almost couldn't believe this was real. But Nathan wasn't joking. He insisted that James deserved this chance, not as charity, but as recognition for his skills and experience. Within weeks, James had moved into a new home, one that was warm, clean, and comfortable. He was no longer just scraping by. He had purpose again. At Nathan's company, James became a mentor to young mechanics, teaching them the tricks of the trade that couldn't be learned in books. His wisdom and patience made him a beloved figure at the shop. And as he looked back at his life, he realized something. True wealth isn't measured in money. It's measured in the impact we have on others. Never underestimate the power of kindness. One small act can change your life in ways you never imagined. Because sometimes, karma has a way of finding those who truly deserve it. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful real-life stories. Have you ever seen karma in action? Tell us in the comments.